Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows just don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just change your mind.
Here we take that chance for you and let you know our opinion on how a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this week will be Sonic Prime.
We're starting the new year off by celebrating the 19th anniversary of Sonic Heroes.
You looked up a specific Sonic property that you could say we were celebrating, didn't you?
No, actually, literally today is the 19th anniversary of Sonic Heroes.
Oh, so...
Not the day this goes live, the day we're recording.
Yeah, so...
I didn't look it up, it just appeared in my Twitter feed.
Crazy. Anyways, we watched Sonic Prime, which despite its name is not a crossover between the two vastly loved franchises of Metroid and Sonic. You know, Metroid Prime, Sonic Prime. That's not the case. Nor is it the case that it's just Sonic on Amazon Prime. No, Sonic Prime is on Netflix.
It's weird because I thought it would be Sonic fused with Optimus Prime in a Transformers meets Sonic world.
That's what happened.
We watched two different shows.
Oh, fuck. Okay, let's go. This will be fun then.
It's the April 1st bit all over again. There's two Sonic Primes.
There's not two Sonic Primes. We're liars and I apologize for that. I don't know why Josh would lie to you like this.
Do you know that there's not two Sonic Primes?
Well, general naming convention, one will be Sonic Prime, and then the other ones don't want to feel like they're lesser of any sort, so they're either Sonic 1 or Sonic Alpha.
Yeah, but if you have to say you're Alpha, you're not Alpha.
That's why the other ones call themselves Sonic 1 then. Duh.
That's a joke about Alpha males. Anyways, this is, from the opening, the most video game accurate looking Sonic. And by video game I'm specifically referring to the Genesis era Sonics. Like, it is a very good adaptation of Genesis era Sonics into 3D graphics.
Yeah, it looks very much like the Green Hill Zone layout.
Which is wild, because that's where we start the show. Green Hill.
And we start with a really fun baseline. We kind of zoom in down over the Green Hill Zone, and then we get Sonic running about.
At the speed of sound?
Yep, going fast.
Faces past and I'm homebound?
I was going to say faster, but yeah. I mean, he's not really homebound. He's already home.
I didn't say Sonic was homebound. I said I was homebound.
Whatever.
And this basically serves as a setup to introduce us to the characters of Sonic.
Yeah. And also for Sonic to just narrate and introduce Green Hill Zone to us, basically.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, yeah, it's green, it's pretty, there's palm trees, there's beaches. Oh, and my friends.
And the first friend we get introduced to is Big the Cat and Froggy. Big the Cat being the first character on screen other than Sonic is wild.
It's kind of ridiculous, but I'm down with it.
I think Big the Cat has like the cult fandom that Waluigi has.
Yeah.
Except Sega's like, yeah, but here's more Big the Cat for everybody.
I would agree.
And Nintendo's like, no, Waluigi was a mistake.
Yeah. My brain pictured the Miyazaki meme, but
that's what I was going for.
But it replaced Miyazaki with Sakurai in it, though.
That's what I was going for.
I realize that's probably what you're going for, but my brain perfectly recreated that image.
So we get introduced to Rouge, Knuckles, Tails, and Amy.
Yeah.
And we also get vaguely introduced to Shadow, but Sonic's like, well, he's not really my friend. We'll get into that later.
Yeah. And he's talking about how it's great hanging out with them, and Green Hill Zone is such a fantastic place to live and everything. But there is one downside. The guy is constantly trying to ruin it all. Dr. Eggman.
So I always confused Robotnik and Eggman, and apparently they're just the same person.
Yes.
Robotnik only exists because Sega America didn't like the name Eggman when
they didn't like the name Eggman. So they made Dr. Ivo Robotnik, and then
eventually just changed his name back to Eggman.
Yeah.
His name in Japan has been Eggman since the first
From
Sonic.
the get-go, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what it implies to me is, now that Robotnik calls himself Eggman, Sonic and his friends have spent so long, like, making fun of Robotnik's body shape, that he's self-internalized this bullying, and now refers to himself as Eggman.
Now, see, I think it's different. I think he's reclaiming that. That's his word. Sonic and friends don't get to use it.
It's a slur to Eggmankind.
Yes.
I wouldn't make the Eggmankind joke, but there's at least 5 different Eggmans in this show.
There are 5 Eggmen.
There's actually 6 Eggmen in the show, yeah. Yep.
So
Eggmankind.
Mm-hmm. And then when it mentions having a fight with Eggman, I'm
sorry. The term Eggmankind.
Yeah.
In my brain, created an image of Eggman.
Okay.
With Mankind mask being thrown off the top of Hell in a Cell.
By Sonic?
He didn't replace Undertaker. It was still Undertaker.
No, you replace Undertaker with...
It would be Big the Cat.
I was going to say you replace Undertaker with the...
Or Knuckles.
I was going to say... replace Big the Cat or Undertaker, whoever you're putting there, with the Sonic Boom overly buff, like I am just a triangle Knuckles.
Yes. Holy shit.
So when he's talking about fighting Eggman, though, we actually see a fight scene, and it turns out that this is kind of an important fight scene. We see Amy, Rouge, Tails, and Knuckles fighting Eggman, and they're wondering where the fuck Sonic is, which is reasonable. The man's super fucking fast, and he's late to this fight, apparently.
Yeah, but Flash is also late to everything, so...
That though, has been given some reason in DC Comics, though.
Yeah, it's Barry Allen attempting to create a cover identity for why he and the Flash
Well, when Barry Allen's late, that's the reason. When the Flash is late, though, the reason they've used is generally it's because he's stopping a fuck ton of different crimes. Basically, at once, he's just like, I figured you guys could hold off for like a minute while I solved 70 fucking crimes across the fucking world.
It's why Kingdom Come Flash is one of my favorite Flashes, because
He never stops stopping crime. He's just constantly running.
his city is legitimately just become like utopic, because
Yeah.
people can't even trip in public anymore.
No.
Like, they trip and they're like, whoop, because
There's no littering. Someone drops something, it gets just teleported to a fucking trash can.
because Flash is busy making life as perfect as a single man can.
Yeah, and what's more ridiculous is he could probably expand that past Central City, but just doesn't, because, well, the world's fucked in Kingdom Come.
Yeah. So yeah, they're getting ready to fight Eggman, and he's talking about how the Paradox Prism will be his. They can't stop him.
He's been looking for it so long. He's had this plan. And so they're all fighting Badniks, which are just the names for robot that Eggman has made.
Specifically, the robots that Eggman has made that are powered by flickies.
Yeah, tiny little bird things.
I didn't know what those were called. I feel bad because that term definitely existed back when I played Sonic games.
Yeah.
Because I've only played Sonic Riders, Sonic Team Racing, and the first 3 Sonic games for Genesis.
Yeah.
And Smash Brothers.
I mean, not really a Sonic game, but sure.
He's in it.
So, as Eggman's getting ready to grab the Paradox Prism, this giant prism that's...
We should mention Sonic has shown up at this point. His team gave him shit because he was late.
Yeah.
But he has shown up.
He kind of shows up as Eggman decides to, like, grab the crystal for himself.
Yeah.
Because he's not in his robot, if I remember correctly at the start of this.
He is in like a mech, but not like a full on mech, but like the things they use in the first Avatar movie that the humans pilot, or like the over mech in Alien, or
Anyways, though, he decides he's going to rip this crystal out, which it's an amalgamation of like a bunch of different colored crystals.
It automatically made me think of Chaos Crystal, the Chaos Gems,
Chaos Emeralds.
Chaos Emeralds. I'm so bad with Sonic lore, guys.
Even though they don't look like Chaos Emeralds, is it just because it's a shiny big rock?
It was
and
the multicolors,
multicolors,
and because like Chaos Gems, in all of my experience with Chaos Gems, have been multicolored Emeralds have been multicolored.
Yeah, there are a few different colors for Chaos Emeralds, I think, nowadays.
In Sonic X, which is the only other Sonic show I've ever watched, all the Chaos Emeralds were different colors.
I think in the comics they are too, at least some of them. The Sonic the Hedgehog Archie comics.
See, out of the two of us, Justice is much more well versed in Sonic lore because
only late 90s, early 2000s Sonic lore.
Because he was a little obsessed with the Sonic Archie comics.
Look, they had them at my local library for some fucking reason. I went to the local library a lot, but I wasn't allowed to take books home because irresponsible parents. Thus, I just read what I could finish there.
Also, I don't think they let comics check out from the
library. No, they didn't let comics check out, but I'm saying, like, instead of reading actual books, which I did still enjoy doing at that age, it didn't make sense to start a book, so I just read comics.
I understand not letting comics get checked out. They're very fragile.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, Robotnik is trying to pull the Chaos Crystal Paradox Prism.
Yeah. And then Sonic decides, whatever my friends are saying doesn't matter, and rushes forward while the others yell for him to stop. And as Eggman pulls on it and Sonic rushes to stop, the prism shatters.
And Sonic is touching the prism as it shatters. I think that's important. I have no proof that that's important, but I think it is. Robotnik is not touching it. He's using metal arms from his, like, robot thing.
Yeah. And now we're going to have to figure out who's going to end up being shard bearers, who's going to be, like, honestly, I think Knuckles would be pretty cool in some shard plate. But it's weird, though, because I don't know why we're crossing the Way of Kings with the Lightbringer series, because there's also this whole prism thing going on with all these different colors. And I definitely don't think Robotnik or Eggman is a prism. I don't think he's the prism. Maybe that's going to be Sonic, but...
The Way of Kings is Brandon Sanderson, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because in my mind, when you start talking about shard bearers, there's only one place I go.
Yep.
Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
True.
And I was like,
True.
Who's going to protect them from the miasma?
I mean, that also works.
I
was just literally reading The Way of Kings earlier today, though.
To be fair, there's a lot more miasma in Sonic Prime than there is whatever's going on in Way of Kings.
Yeah. I mean, arguably, out of all of them, Eggman is the most equivalent to a shard bearer, or at least a user of some shards, because arguably Mechanical Exosuit is basically just shard plate, because shard plate's just fantasy exosuit.
This is an incredibly wide tangent, and I'm sorry, listeners.
Yeah.
But RDM has created a world where individual countries are ruled by shard bearers.
Yeah.
Do you think he is more actively influenced by Brandon Sanderson or Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles?
Neither? But if I had to choose between one of the two, I don't remember. Do the shard bearers in Crystal Chronicles, do each shards have a different power?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
The issue is I had Crystal Chronicles for Nintendo GameCube.
And no memory card.
So I've only ever got about 3 or 4 hours deep into Crystal Chronicles.
Yeah. So I would go with the Way of Kings, strictly the Way of Kings is more fantasy based, but I feel like the shards aren't as powerful, but I'm also not very far into the series, so.
Fair enough. Hey, DM, if you're listening to this, let us know.
The answer's probably neither. Anyways, though, when the prism shatters, we get some tense music and our title screen.
Yeah, and then Sonic appears in a futuristic city where he gets hit immediately by a...
No. When we resume, Sonic is drifting through a shard-filled subspace dimension.
Oh, yes, that's right, sorry. And in this subspace dimension, there's giant crystallized versions of the Sonic crew and a crystalline version of Eggman.
Yeah.
And they're saying things that just further characterize them in case you've never seen a Sonic property before in your life.
Eggman's like, I can't wait to make things that are a reflection of me and defeat Sonic, blah, 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 blah.
One day the world will no longer be forests and trees, but all industry.
Yeah.
Sonic is distinctly political, if you're unaware.
Sonic is video game Captain Planet.
Sonic and his crew are equivalently eco-terrorists.
Yep.
Good guys, that Sonic and his gang. But yeah, Eggman's ranting about industrialization.
He tells us, like, I'm your best friend. As long as we're friends, you'll never be by yourself.
And then Knuckles is like, look, you just gotta tell me who to smash and what to smash, and I'll smash. Knuckles, smash.
Amy is like, yeah.
I might be the heart of the team, but you're the only one who we can all rally behind.
Yeah, and Rouge is just like, sometimes I'm a villain, sometimes I'm not. I'll still help.
Specifically, she says, you might not like how I do it, but I always get things done.
Yeah.
They're honestly a little bit like the sassy, like, catchphrases you would expect a character to say when you're, like, hovering over them on a title screen for a video game.
Like, who do I want to play as?
With me, you'll never be alone. Sonic might be the leader of the team, but I'm the heart of the team.
Just tell me what to smash and win. You may not like how I do things, but I always get them done.
Right.
I will shape the world in my image.
It's 100% a character select screen.
Yeah. And so then Netflix selects Sonic. Boo, bad choice, whatever. Oh, I have to play the main character. And we start off in the new world on a street.
Is Sonic Prime an isekai?
Yes, he goes to another world.
Yes.
Even if it's a parallel dimension, it falls into Isekai's territory, I would say.
Wonderful.
And in classic isekai tradition, though, a little subversion of the genre here, upon appearing in the new world, he almost gets hit by a truck.
Oh, he actually...
The truck doesn't send him here, but it does almost send him home.
He does get hit by the truck.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of yes and no. He does the cartoon thing of where he gets hit by it, but he actually kind of like grabs it and catches on and does not seem to be affected by the impact at all.
Oh, he 100% gets hit on it and he's riding on it like a cartoon character.
Oh, it looked like he was holding it to me.
Yeah, he's riding on it like a cartoon character when they get hit and they're like flat against it.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
And when he arrives, though, he does say that was a sonic boom of a headache, which there are two ways to interpret this.
No, there's one way to interpret this.
There's only one correct way to interpret this. One, if you have no frame of reference for Sonic things besides the show you are currently watching, being Sonic Prime, congratulations. He's made a joke about the sonic boom created with sound barriers, and it's loud, so it could hurt your head. Or, better, if you do know Sonic stuff, he's referencing Sonic Boom, a bad Sonic TV show.
I think distinctly the worst Sonic TV show. Again, I've only seen Sonic X. But no matter how bad Sonic X is, its theme songs alone make it better than Sonic Boom.
I mean, the, like, random Sonic animated adventures.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There was, like, a small thing with, like, older Sonic art, and it was much more, like, basically around the popular time of, like, the 90s, where it was just, like, here's this...
shorts, like those little...
Here's this video game mascot we have. How do we market him? And they already had basically the animated Sonic they would have on commercials, and then they just had like little shorts, like how there was the Mario Brothers, like little short cartoon things.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm pretty sure Sonic had his own run of that too.
So he gets hit by the truck, and the truck is actually like hovering above the ground because it's Future City. And we get to kind of look around the city.
Yeah.
It's all very gray and dystopian.
Mm-hmm. Even the people in the background being moved along the sidewalks by people movers are grayish in color.
I hate Disney a little bit.
Yep.
Because people movers means one thing. There is a thing called a people mover. Mm-hmm. And Disney decided to name a tram system a people mover.
No.
Yeah.
Disney... The colors are people movers, Disney. If we're going by that fucking logic, my feet are people movers. Because it may only move one person most of the time, but I can pick people up and move them as well.
The Disney tram system and Disneyland is called the People Mover, but People Movers are distinctly like the things in airports that are floors that just...
Yeah, it's just a fucking conveyor belt for humans.
Yeah, that's a People Mover. Fuck you, Disney. Sorry, it irritates me because, like,
I don't blame you. Disney's dumb.
I don't want to say people mover and have people misunderstand what we mean by people mover.
Yeah.
Because it's very important to the imagery here, because these anthropomorphized animals are all, like, standing despondently on the people mover, heads down.
Yeah.
Just going to where they're going.
And Sonic's really fucking confused about where he is. And so he, like, runs, but he's having a really fucking hard time of it.
Yeah, his shoes are all glowy with energy and light.
And he doesn't really run far. And so he doesn't notice his shoes are weird. They're just weird and glowy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts trying to figure out where he is. He's asking anyone on the people movers.
Yeah, he grabs one of the animals and it's like, where are we? What is this place?
They literally don't even, like, acknowledge him. And then we hear a horn sound, and there's this big, floaty hunk of metal that should not reasonably stay in the sky.
And it's got, like, horns on it and billboards.
A little, like, projective heads-up display billboard type situation.
And it says, welcome to New York City.
Yep.
And Sonic's like, I have no idea where that is. I must have traveled quite a distance.
Yeah. And, you know, he's not very happy because he doesn't like cities. But he is pretty excited when he sees Big and Froggy on one of those people movers.
Yeah, and he runs up to them and he's like, hey guys, it's so great to see you. Where are we? What's going on?
Hugs them.
And they have no idea what's going on. They don't even look like they recognize him. But we don't actually find out because swiftly some drones sweep in.
Yeah, because we see the scene immediately after he hugs onto Big through a red lens, so obviously a robot. And some robots swoop in and, like, unidentified citizen, blah, 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 blah.
And they're like, stand down.
You're breaking so many laws set forth by the Chaos Council.
And he's like, oh, can you direct me to the Chaos Council? They sound important.
I mean, he's also told to fix it or be disassembled.
Yes.
Not that there's assumedly a way to fix that very easily, so just disassemble.
So Sonic runs off, but he's still having trouble hitting speed.
Yeah,
So the robots are keeping up pretty well.
Basically, hit Sonic's acceleration really, really good, but his handling has dropped a fuck ton in this new area.
So he gets cornered in an alley and manages to bop off a couple of the bots. And he's surprised to find out that the robots aren't powered by flickies because he immediately assumed they were botniks.
Yeah, badniks.
Because botniks are the only thing... Badniks, sorry. Badniks are the only robots that he has experience with.
So he decides, because he's having trouble running, that the easiest way out of here is up, and he catches on to a maglev, like, train system.
They call it, like, the Caterpillar or something later.
Yeah, it looks like a caterpillar, but it's a maglev train system with a fancy name.
Yeah.
And it pulls him up along the side of a skyscraper.
Sorry, they call it the Scarab.
Ah.
Yeah.
And he notices that the skyscraper is being, like, assembled by a giant, like, claw. And he notices that a chunk is being put down. So he jumps off of the scarab and lands on the metal plate in between the two stacks of building and just zips along that. The drones following behind him and then get crushed by the building being finished assembled.
Yeah, and the really important part of this scene for us, I think, is that it gives us a sense of scale for New York.
Yep.
Because while it is just a chase scene, that's what it boils down to. It is a chase scene that is shot from above New York City for the most part and gives us a sense of scale for the city.
Yeah.
But after he escapes those robots, he's standing at the base of a building on the sidewalk area.
And we see what looks like a much older camera compared to every other bit of technology we've seen here. Like, it looks like a mid-2000s CCTV camera that you would have for security on a business. We see its lens dilate and focus on him. And then we see an Amy shape in front of a bank of screens.
With a Robotnik shadow.
Well, not then. We get that.
Oh, not yet. Okay, yeah.
And then we get Sonic complaining about
he goes,
how much the city sucks.
Smog, concrete, and evil robots. All the things I hate in one place.
And then he turns around and sees that, like, this little section of wall here looks like the same gradient texture pattern that they use on all of the land for Green Hill Zone.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, what? No. And he runs up the side of a skyscraper, jumps up in the air, and he sees the loop from the Green Hill Zone, which has been, like, preserved, and you can't really see it from where he is, but I assume it's a fucking roundabout.
Yeah.
And then he sees the area where Tell's shop should be. He sees it's, like, a area that's homes for some people. I don't know.
Yeah, he just sees a bunch of landmarks that he recognizes, but he focuses in on Tell's shop, and he goes, Tells, I need to find Tells. Yeah. He'll know what's going on.
And then he falls back down through the sky into a trash can.
And we cut to Tells pre-shattering, because when we jump to this world, we were told that this is the Shatter.
Shattered is the name of the episode, at least.
Yeah. We're not told that this is Shattered, but we are told that this next scene happens pre-shattering.
Yes. And we see Mr. Miles per hour flying around in his airplane, the Tornado. And we also see Rouge and Knuckles fighting some bad nicks. And Sonic is fighting an egg crusher robot.
Yep, and while he's fighting the Egg Crusher, Tails is doing like reconnaissance from the sky.
Yeah.
And immediately not immediately, but after doing a scan of the Egg Crusher, notices that Robotnik's not actually inside of it, that he's just like phoning his voice in from somewhere.
Yeah, and he tries to tell Sonic, but Sonic, being Sonic, is not paying any attention. He's like, yeah, no, I've got him beat. This is easy.
Sonic, it's a trap. I don't see a trap.
Then again, I guess that is kind of the definition of a trap. I wouldn't see it.
I love Sonic's himbo energy in this.
Yeah.
In Sonic X, I think Sonic was too smart.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And then, despite Miles trying to warn him, Sonic does this little spin thing and knocks the Egg Crusher off the edge of a cliff because they are batting on top of a mountain.
And he
They're
just
falling.
rides Egg Crusher down into the ground.
Slams it in, and we see a giant blue concussive blast of energy fly out.
Yeah, and it like hits everybody, including Shadow, who we don't know that it hits Shadow yet, my bad.
Yeah. And we see that it cracks up the mountain.
Yep. And Sonic's like, didn't know I was that fast or that strong.
Yes. And Tails looks vaguely upset and flies off in his plane.
And then Eggman spying from the distance. Thanks, Sonic, for powering up the explosion for the robot, as it saved them months worth of digging time. This is also the introduction of his two little robot lackeys that he always travels with. I don't know their names. I'm not a Sonic fan. Justice?
Yeah, he has Orbot and Cubot with him. The yellow one that is Boxy's Cubot. The red one that is roundish is Orbot.
I remember them from Sonic X after I looked up images of their Sonic X forms.
Yeah, bumbling buffoons.
Yeah, they're great. I actually kind of love them in Sonic X.
Yeah, no, they're generally kind of fun. And in here, we kind of just get Eggman starting to make a monologue, and they interject some dumb shit, and they'll do it again later.
We did forget to mention that during the fight with the Egg Smasher, Eggman from a distance radioed through the Egg Smasher, calls Tails a mutant freak.
Yeah, so as Sonic is debating a trap thing, he almost starts to listen to Tails, and Sonic says something, and Eggman agrees with him, and Sonic is still going to stop the fight, because I think Sonic was like, yeah, I guess I'm not that smart, and Eggman's like, yeah, you're just dumb, basically. And then Eggman realizes, oh, Sonic didn't take that as a taunt, that it'll work, so instead he insults Tails, Sonic gets upset, and then he does the spin dash into
so
Bot.
He insults Tails to upset Sonic, because Sonic only cares about his friends, but he also is making fun of somebody for their physical deformity, which is just a nice little quick keynote that Eggman is indeed evil.
Yeah, so Eggman, like we were saying, is with his bots, Cubot and Orbot, and he is expressing how happy he is that Sonic took care of the issue and blew up part of the mountain for him, because it would have taken way too long to dig.
So after the fight, Sonic goes looking for Tails, finds him in his lab, which is really a garage or an airplane hangar, and the passcode to get in is 1992, which either means Tails is fourth wall breakingly stupid, or this is just a clever like little Easter egg.
Yeah, because 1992 would be the year that he first debuted in Sonic Adventures 2? Sonic 2.
Yeah, I think it's just Sonic
Whatever
2.
it is. The second Sonic game in 1992.
The second Genesis one. You know, the one I spent way too many hours playing as a child.
Yeah. And he's like, I didn't mean to upset you, Tails. Like, what's going on? And Tails is like, that felt too easy. It felt like a trap, like I said. There was like this weird energy signal, and you definitely never gave off a blast that big before. Didn't you find it weird that Eggman wasn't in the cockpit?
Yeah, and then Sonic and Tails kind of like discuss what Eggman would need an explosion like that for. Only after Sonic mentions that instead of like a seed or anything for Eggman, there was a weird device in the machine.
Yeah, and Tails is like, well, you didn't throw that in with the dump of Badnik parts, did you? And Sonic's like, nope. Runs off, rushes back. He's just like, you ordered a thing? And
so they realize that it was like an amplifier to amplify Sonic's speed into an explosion. And they're discussing what Eggman would want with an explosion of that size for.
And then Rouge chimes in from the loft above them that, oh yeah, no, I can see him definitely needing something like that. After all, I have heard about the Paradox Prism being buried underneath the bedrock of the Green Hill Zone. It's such a beautiful gem that I've been looking for so long.
And Sonic's like, wait, how did you get in here? And she just ignores him.
Yeah.
And so she lays out all this like plot.
Yep.
And then he's like, okay, but how did you get in here?
Yeah. And then we cut from them to Eggman, who is actually going into the mountain now to get the prism. And here he has his really lengthy monologue about how this is it. He is at the precipice of, and then I think it's Cubot that goes, the mountain?
That was legitimately funny.
Yeah.
It was like the definition of an anti-joke.
And then Cubot cuts in with another bad timing here somewhere in his monologue. And Eggman tells him to shut up as he takes his first step. He steps into a little cave area, falls about 15 feet, and then yells at them for not telling him how big that first step was.
Yeah, and then he gets up and he sees the Paradox Prism and cue evil laughter.
Yep.
The Sonic crew further discuss what Eggman was doing. They're all sitting on top of the loop, and they're trying to figure out if they can figure out what his plan is, like what he's trying to do.
And then they realize that whatever, it doesn't matter, we're just gonna go back to the mountain. And Sonic's like, cool, I'm gonna get some coins first, and takes off, and then the others fly off on Tails' plane.
Then we cut
Except
back.
for Rouge, who flies off with her bat wings.
Mhm. And she carries Knuckles.
No, Knuckles is holding on
Yeah, sorry, you're right.
to the left top wing of the Tornado.
So back in the present day, Sonic is realizing that he is still in Green Hill, and that this means Eggman has won.
Yep.
He doesn't know how, but he knows that Eggman has won.
So he's like, oh, fuck, and has to go find Tails, because that's his best shot, in his opinion, at fixing things.
So then we cut to an Amy-esque silhouette that subtitles tell you is named Rusty Rose,
Yes.
and she is watching Sonic on surveillance with the shadow of Eggman beside her.
Which, yeah, so that's fun.
Neither of them actually recognize Sonic.
Yeah.
Rose says that the Eggbots failed to stop him, but that he is now heading into Babble's territory.
Yep. And then we get Sonic being chased by robots again.
Until he encounters a giant robot.
That looks like a giant orb that then just has like giant cylindrical kind of arms, but the middle of it looks like a fucking Simon Says.
Is that what those toys are called? Where like they just have like animal noises and noises on them?
Well,
with
no,
a dial?
but like it looked like it had like 4 big main color components.
Okay.
So it looked like the Simon Says game, push a color.
And each color component was like separated into like 4 more like sound icons.
Was it on that?
Yeah.
I missed it on there. I just saw
Because
big blocks of color.
It rolls to the baby rattle, which is how it gets the baby rattle weapon out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's more of not a speak and spell.
No, it just like they just go like dog says wolf. Rattle
Moo?
goes.
Moo.
Yeah.
That's the sound a rattle make.
It is the sound a rattle makes.
Anyways, though, Sonic insults him calling a baby and kind of tries to fight it. He ends up beating up some robots and knocks the cockpit open. And inside is an actual baby.
A baby Robotnik.
Yeah, so Sonic's like, what? And is confused, closes it again, and starts running.
Mm-hmm. And Sonic eventually outruns Babble's robot.
I mean, not really outruns. He runs into a pipe that the giant robot can't fit in.
Yeah. And after he dives into that pipe, Rouge, who is now standing on top of a building with Knuckles, spot Sonic and decide to follow him as he is fast and strong and anti-egg.
Yeah.
Knuckles is suspicious. He thinks it's a trap.
And we learn here that Rouge is being called Rebel,
Mm-hmm.
and Knuckles is being called Nux.
Yeah, Rebel and Nux.
Mm-hmm.
Their full code names or names just get better after this. It's Rebel Rouge.
And Renegade Nux.
I love it.
Anyways, though, we see Sonic at basically their train station equivalent in
The Scarab Station.
New York City, not New Donk City.
It's fine. I actually made that mistake at least once in my notes. I also called it New York at least once in my notes.
Yeah. And then he sees Tails off in the distance and follows him, but when he gets to where he was, basically the end of like the station area, Tails is gone.
So he looks around a little bit and he sees a door that has a keypad protection on it. And he walks up to it and he's like, if I know Tails at all. Types in 1992, the door opens, and he goes, Tails!
And then Tails doesn't respond, so he walks over to Tails, slaps a hand on his shoulder, and says Tails.
And then Tails turns to me and goes, what did you call me?
And up from behind his back pop up 7 sharp tails, even though they're thin and fairly straight, so they look much more like insectoid legs.
He has so much Doc Ock vibes here.
Yeah.
So this turns into a full-on fight between Sonic and Tails.
Yeah, because Tails yells, it's not Tails.
My name is Nine. Yeah.
Nines? It feels like there's an S on it sometimes.
I don't know.
I think it's Nines.
And it's funny because, like, the idea is he's a kitsune.
9-tailed foxes, also because, yeah, that's really it.
Yeah. 2-tailed fox, weakest kitsune.
Mhm.
9-tailed fox, strongest kitsune. I guess actually a 1-tailed fox is the weakest kitsune, but...
Yeah, so they start fighting, and Tails manages to knock Sonic out of his workshop and onto an oncoming Scarab train.
And then he gets on the Scarab, and he's using, like, his extra tentacle
Tails.
legs. Tails, yeah. To stake into the top of the Scarab as he walks forward. So he has like 2 metal Tails like acting as legs, and then 5 more metal Tails as weapons, and his 2 normal Tails. And he's just like straight up laying the smackdown on Sonic.
And the entire time they're both kind of arguing. Like Sonic's being like, "What are you doing? Like, I'm your friend." And Tails is being like, "I don't know who you are. I don't know who sent you. But what are you doing?"
Nobody has friends in New York.
I mean, that comes later after their fight resolves.
Yeah.
And so their fight resolves by Tails almost falling off the side of a train, catching on with his tail. But there is another oncoming Scarab that he's not going to be able to stop in time, like climb back up before it hits him. But Sonic yanks him back up, and they actually go flying off the Scarab they're standing on, roll a bit along a platform, and then they're both standing up again, kind of tense. And Tails is still very suspicious. Well, Nines.
And then Sonic's like, don't you remember how we met? And tells the whole story about how Sonic and Tails met. And the entire story is told on like the Genesis engine style for Sonic.
I mean, it's using a pixel style art, but it definitely has a much higher pixel count.
Yeah, so the story is...
It's like a 2.5D.
Tails was being bullied by two foxes with what, singular tails?
Yeah, they're bullying him because he has two.
Yeah, because he's a mutant freak, right, Eggman?
And then Sonic rushes by and kind of stops them, and they've been friends ever since.
And Tails is like,
how do you know that?
That's not how that story went.
And then we see this Tails, or Nine's now, story, and he's walking along a city in it.
In like gritty, pixely 2D.
And these two foxes jump out of a bush, and they tease him and they beat him up, and he's like, and that went on for years until I took it upon myself
to use my fox cunning.
My fox smarts, because in the fight, Sonic was talking about how smart he is several times.
Yeah.
To solve the problem myself, and I made these, and no one's messed with me ever since. And Sonic's just like, no, but we're friends. And then Tails is like, there are no friends, and pulls out like a gun.
And Sonic goes, wait.
I thought we were getting on better. And his shoes are smoldering and glowing now from this fight. And then it's just like, hold still, pulls the trigger, and it scans him.
Yep. So, like you said, Sonic's shoes have been glowing and sparky ever since he arrived in New York.
Yeah.
And with the scanner, Nine uses it to like create regulators to stop Sonic's energy from causing his shoes from burning up or exploding.
Yeah, he realizes there's some weird energy about Sonic.
Yep. So he gives these like 4 little clips, 2 go on his gloves, 2 go on his
little
shoes.
Like discs, the magnetic discs almost they look like.
Yeah, and they transform his shoes and gloves to look more like metal and futuristic.
His shoes look more like fancy cleats, and his gloves look like basic future gloves that you would throw on any RPG character.
Yeah, they got a metal circle on the back.
And then like just what would in a board be your copper flat wire, your copper
I just call them cybernetic
tracing,
lines.
yeah. But instead they're just the same dark grayish metal.
Yeah.
And Sonic's like, whoa, this is awesome.
I'm gonna go test them out.
Yeah, he's like, he realizes before he says he's gonna test them, they work a lot better. He's gonna go test them out and drags Nines along with him. And Nines is like, no, we shouldn't go outside. That's a dumb idea. And basically, the moment they walk outside, Babel picks them up.
Yep. And Rebel and Knuckles see it happen, and they're like, well, looks like Blue has a friend.
So I am unsure if we had a small time skip from Sonic saying he's going to test them out, or if Nine's place.
There had to be a little bit of a time skip because we jumped from essentially the subway system to the street level.
I was about to say, or Nine's base has more than one entrance/exit.
Fair enough.
Because we don't know that system is higher up.
Yeah, that's fair.
You could have just have like a fucking back door that leads onto the street.
Yeah, so Rebel and Knuckles then are like, looks like Blue has a friend, and he's involved now too.
Well, Rebel says that, and Knuckles goes, didn't look very friendly to me.
Feels like a trap. Because everything feels like a trap to this Knuckles. He's like Admiral Akbar if you gotta say it's a trap more than once in a movie.
Look, at least on 2 occasions where Knuckles becomes like actually kind of a character involved in stuff. His first experience with Sonic and Tails was being tricked into thinking they were evil by Eggman. His introduction to Sonic, which I do believe was originally in Sonic the Hedgehog Archie comics, was, oh, I've been lied and tricked. It was a trap.
So Sonic and Nine are taken to the council headquarters.
Yes.
And Sonic is put into like a stasis ring.
Yeah.
It's got 2 little cuffs for his arms and 2 little cuffs for his feet, and it's all powered by electricity. And
Mr. Incredible prison setup, Incredibles 1.
yeah. Sonic sees Amy, but it turns out she's not called Amy. She's a cybernetic variant that used to be Amy, named Rusty Rose.
Cybernetic enhancements were required to survive.
Yeah, she's very robotic, very unemotional.
In the Sonic the Hedgehog comics, Eggman really likes to turn people into robots, or try to. He turns Sonic into one, Knuckles gets turned into one, he tries to turn Bunny into one.
So the council then come in, and Rusty Rose introduces us to all of them. We have...
I don't remember their names.
I have all their names here.
Can I go before that?
Sure.
We've got Old Eggman, Hippie Eggman, Teen Gamer Eggman, Baby Eggman, and the pompadour wearing Eggman.
We have Dr. Dunnett, Dr. Deep, Dr. Don't, Dr. Babel, and Mr. Dr. Eggman.
I remembered Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Doctor. Because we're actually introduced to the concept of Mr. Doctor earlier.
Yeah.
When Sonic is talking to Nine, and he's like...
We fought Eggman together and everything. And Sonic's like, you mean Mr. Dr. Eggman?
Nine goes, which one?
Yeah.
Mr. Dr. Eggman? And Sonic goes, yeah, that one, I guess.
Yeah. And when they're here and they get the introduction, Sonic goes, oh, that's the one you meant.
Yeah.
And we learn from the Chaos Council, which was what they're calling themselves, that they have no data on Sonic.
They have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
It's weird to me because I don't think it didn't look like the shadow that was with Rusty was any of these 5.
It may not be.
Yeah, I'm thinking there has to be a 6th.
Like, because we saw bald top and just the tufts on the side and the shadow it looked like, the options are it's Dr. Dunnett, but we should have seen some of the beard probably. But also, Eggman is a very odd shape, so it might be hard to get that shape there. Or it was Mr. Dr. Eggman without his pompadour.
Yeah, I think there's a 6th Eggman.
I would agree.
Sonic accuses them of being an Eggman family family and accuses Mr. Dr. Eggman of calling in reinforcements.
Yeah, Eggman's just like, fool.
We're not family. We are 5 people who are simultaneously one. We are the Chaos Council, and they don't actually tell us anything. This tells us nothing about who they are or how they exist.
Yeah.
The Eggmen don't know, like you said, don't know anything about him. Rusty Rose then suggests that they may be able to determine his nature based on his unique energy signature that they haven't seen before. She also suggests that they figure out what his energy signature is via life-threatening testing.
Yeah.
And the entire time, Sonic's like, Amy, you know I hate tests.
So my assumption, though, as to why all these, just some headcanoning here from things, as to why all these Eggmans are the same and exist across the different spectrum, is that obviously, because the robots don't use flickies, they're using chaos energy. Mm-hmm. They're called the Chaos Council. There are 7 Chaos Emeralds. I would assume each of them has one. Like, I don't know if they managed to split their aspects somehow and are fueling that with a Chaos Emerald. Chaos Emeralds do wonky shit that never makes sense anyways.
And different things in every iteration.
Mm-hmm. And then I assume one is probably powering all of New York City. And then I don't know what the 7th one would be doing.
So here would be my guess.
Or the Paradox Prism separates people into aspects of themselves, so prisms.
So here's what my aspect is if we're talking Chaos Emeralds. If it broke into 7 Chaos Emeralds, we have the 5 council members. We have Dr. Eggman himself, who we haven't seen yet, and we have Sonic, who has one. Sonic doesn't know he has one because it's actually inside of him right now.
I mean, but I guess... But Sonic doesn't seem to have existed in this parallel universe. So I don't know why he would have one in him.
Because even though he didn't exist in this parallel universe, this universe can't exist without the 7 Chaos Emeralds having shattered like that.
What do you mean having shattered?
I'm thinking of the prism. My bad.
Yeah, you're thinking of the Paradox Prism. I'm just saying there are 7 Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah, okay, so
and they're called the Chaos Council.
So the 7th one would be fueling the city, I guess, and they each have their own.
But then there's, and
that leads to the secret Eggman theory.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't know if the secret Eggman would have had it. Like, I don't know what the 7th one would have been before he appeared. Unless in this paradox he appears before Sonic appears.
Well, that Eggman doesn't seem to know Sonic either.
True.
So I think that Eggman is just the head of the council.
Sure makes sense.
But yeah, so Sonic was like, I hate tests, but then they start testing him anyways. The first test is just a pair of laser turrets that shoot at him as he runs around. He eventually gets them to shoot each other, but he's also being forced to do these tests because Rusty Rose threatened to harm Tails if he didn't.
Yeah.
The next test is just a treadmill with like laser wires.
And the treadmill goes up and down. Mm-hmm. It oscillates basically, and he has to dodge the lasers.
And the next one is an obstacle course with fan blades and a spike crusher.
And spikes, just generally.
Yeah.
Look, these are all, what if we remove a little segment from a Sonic map and make him participate in it?
Yeah. And then they put him in a hamster ball with things bouncing around inside
it. It looked like spike balls.
Yeah. And he's just running around in this ball trying to dodge it. Mm-hmm. Sonic appeals to Rusty Rose at this point. Sorry, yeah.
No, you're right. Never mind. I was literally about to say this. Okay. What you're about to say.
Yeah, Sonic, you can take it. That's fine. I've been talking.
Okay, so after the hamster ball kind of finishes, Sonic asks if he passed the test, and then Old Man Eggman, or Dr. Dunnett, tells Rusty Rose to make him run after Rusty Rose says no limit has been found. And so Sonic's like, do you have no heart? And she opens a little chest compartment.
He accuses her of being heartless.
Mm-hmm. And we see a flicky in her chest, and she says the birdie seems to say no.
So they push Sonic to his limits, and then begins to realize that the energy signature that he detected on Sonic is the same one that powers New York City.
So assumedly chaos energy, which makes sense because sometimes Sonic just has chaos energy.
And as Sonic finally reaches his limit, he begins experiencing the Speed Force.
Yeah.
It's literally the Speed Force. And he hears Prime Shadow tell him, it's broken. It's all broken.
Yes. And we also have the Council of Chaos reacting because, dope / weird, this energy field is supercharging our systems. And then we also see Rusty Rose's console that she's using to control these tests spark, and she backs up.
And then Sonic is back at the loop before the crew goes to stop Eggman from getting the Paradox Prism.
Yep. And so... actually this is where they all leave to go.
Yeah, we replay this. Mm-hmm. We follow Sonic's crew as they go to the cave to get the Paradox Prism.
They're observing the mountain and they realize that the cloud around it hasn't moved, so they circle around and they see that there's a small entrance and it's covered in robots.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sonic goes to get rings just in case Eggman manages to hurt him. And while running through Green Hill collecting rings, we see Shadow come running towards him.
We also see Shadow running as well. And then we end the episode with Shadow having just punched Sonic, and we freeze on that.
Freeze frame, end end episode, and then we get an end theme that is a little bit ska, but very much still Sonic.
Yes. So, what are your thoughts on episode 1 of Sonic Prime Shattered?
It's a very cool show that has big animated movie vibes. It doesn't feel like a show. It feels like a movie you would see in theaters. And I don't know what I mean by that distinctly. Like, the vibe is movie. The vibe isn't show. The vibe is movie.
I get that, I guess. I think a lot of it's because they put a lot of work into these action sequences.
Fair enough.
That are so long, they feel out of place, almost, unless it was a longer feature.
That said, we should also mention, as an animated show, this first episode is 45 minutes.
Yes.
But it's a fun vibe, and I really enjoy seeing Sonic characters reimagined in a dystopian future style. It very much sits like Marvel's What Ifs or DC's Elseworlds.
Yeah.
Because it's not stuff that we normally get. Like, we don't normally get 9. 9 is cool. He's cool as fuck. He's a little edgy, but I'm a 90s kid. Edgy is cool. Fuck you. We haven't specifically seen these versions of Sonic characters before in the games as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
And as far as Sonic Media goes, I think they're also pretty original to that. Again, I have no clue. That said, I like it all. I would say it would easily have outclassed most Saturday morning cartoons in the early and mid-outs.
I would agree on most of that, yeah.
Like, this show makes Sonic X look bad, and Sonic X wasn't distinctly bad. It was just mid.
Yeah. Honestly, the animation is really fluid and nice, and the movement is really well done.
I didn't think I liked the animation at first. Like, when we first started, I I really like how it emulates the Genesis games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like how the characters interact with the 3D world very much. But it grew on me very quickly.
Yeah, I actually think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And the music is also really good. Like, the opening bass line of the show was just a fun time. I would say my biggest complaint is it's gonna sound weird, spend so much time on Sonic just running around.
At the speed of sound.
That part annoys me, and but yeah, I think I'd watch more of this based on the first episode. Maybe not as long of an episode I wouldn't want.
Well, that's good, because I would also watch more of this, and the next episode isn't as long. The next episode is 25 minutes.
And it is The Yoke is on You.
Also, Netflix kind of has Disney Plus level credits for this show.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it says 45 minutes, it's closer to a 40-minute runtime. And even though it says 25 minutes, it's closer to a 20-minute runtime.
And fun fact, because it happens very quickly, it's less like a 20-minute runtime and more like a 17-minute runtime.
Oh, I have a little bit of discussion about this.
Because it repeats so many of the same fucking scenes.
It suffers really badly from SRS, the good old shonen recap syndrome.
Yeah. So we start with zoomies of Shadow, because we start with Shadow. He's zooming around, killing rocks, because I guess that's fun.
Well, it's because apparently rocks sometimes have Chaos Emeralds in them.
Yeah, he finds a Chaos Emerald.
Either he could sense the Chaos Emerald's location and didn't know which rock it was, or he it's just commonplace that...
I mean, I think Shadow can, in the games, don't hold me to this, I haven't played the Shadow game, I just know of it and know story stuff about it. I think he has a vague ability to sense Chaos energy, because I think that's how he manages to find Sonic.
You know what I know about the Shadow game? It's broken as all holy fuck. He has air shoes and he wields double pistols because he's a badass.
Well, yeah, everyone knows the Shadow Sonic game is just the Sonic franchise's Dirge of Cerberus.
It really is. Except Dirge of Cerberus isn't a buggy,
They're both
broken
experiments. Mess. They're both motivated by the death of someone that they were supposed to watch out for and care for. They both have strange energy that's kind of undefined, but there are other people that use it, and it seems to be based around natural forces. They have weird amnesiac things going on. They both have rocket shoes and guns, and their main motif is black and red in color.
You're not wrong, but the Shadow game is a buggy piece of shit. Dirge of Cerberus is a masterclass in experimental genres.
I'm just saying, Shadow is Vincent Valentine. He is Vincent Valentine's persona.
Speaking of personas, before we get into episode 2, let's get into this. Episode 2, by the way, is entitled The Yoke's on You.
I already covered that.
Oh, yeah. Before we get into this, we realized something. Justice realized something during this watch. Because I was like, it's really weird to me that Sonic lists Rouge just straight up as one of his friends. She's typically more like an anti-hero.
Oh, yeah. And then I made what was meant to be a passing joke, aimed lightly at the furry community, but more at the weird Sonic cringe OC community, which was, well, the more someone wants to fuck a character, the more that character is good, becomes good.
And I just, as a joke started rattling off characters, I was like, yeah, you're right. Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Deadpool. I named, there was more. Fuck, my brain is filling.
Spike. Black Cat.
Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, by the way. Catwoman. Mm-hmm. It's just, the more fuckable a character becomes to the audience, the more they stray from anti-hero to just straight up hero.
Yeah. Does that apply for Punisher yet?
I don't think it has.
Okay.
I know a lot of cops would like to give him a blowjob, but
Yeah, he wouldn't want that, though.
a cab.
Punisher does not like cops. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think we stumbled on a theory here called the anti-hero to fuckable skill.
Yeah.
Or the anti-hero to fuckable pipeline.
No, the fuckable to hero pipeline.
Oh,
The more
yes.
fuckable you are, the more hero you become.
Oh, yes, that's the best way to determine it.
The fuckable hero pipeline.
Fuckable to hero pipeline.
No, we got the two because it doesn't work with the flow, so it's just a fuckable hero pipeline.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The two's implied. You know it. Once you learn the model of how it works, you know that you're going from fuckable to hero on the pipeline.
It's wild. Like, there's so many characters. So many.
Yeah.
Nissa Ravane from Magic the Gathering.
Sure.
She went from being a literal eugenicist to being one of the primary characters because
I thought of one that oscillates somewhat. Deathstroke oscillates back and forth between that.
Liliana Vess also.
Yeah.
She started off as a straight villain.
Well, what it feels like is people want to fuck them, and then they start to make them better, and then someone's like, wait, this person's supposed to be evil. So then they crank it back up. Generally through like one big act. That's why like Deathstroke will be like, no, look, here's his family life. Here's this. Yeah, sure, he kind of fucked up his children's lives, but he did it for a good reason.
And people are like, oh, look, Deathstroke kind of fuckable. And then the writers are like, he also
fuck.
sexually molested a 14-year-old.
Also, we're going to put his mask back on for a while. Not the mask. Forget he's a daddy underneath that mask.
And people are like, oh, yeah, fuck, he's a groomer and a
He's a
pedo.
horrible piece of shit. And then they do an arc where he has to work with them and like, oh, yeah. They take his mask off for a while.
Does Huntress fall into this pipeline?
Kind of.
Yeah.
So does Shezai.
This pipeline is going to break me.
I wonder if this pipeline works in reverse, though. So, like, hear me out. Red Arrow or Arsenal, I don't think anyone's ever really wanted to fuck him. And he always tends to go from hero to anti-hero. And then
Jason Todd.
And then that's when people want to fuck them, once they hit the anti-hero scale. The pipeline, you can reverse the flow on pipeline and go from hero to fuckable. It just means you're not a hero anymore.
Jason Todd is the
Yep.
Holy shit.
So I guess the actual example here is the more of an anti-hero you are, the more fuckable you are, and thus the more fuckable you are, the more comics want to put you in it. And then people are like, well, it's hard to tell just a straight anti-hero story with a good plot that we wanted to do, so we have to make them more of a hero. It's obviously a bit of a miasma there, but like, I think it's easily explained.
This means that there is a perfect point on the scale between fuckability and anti-hero.
Yeah.
Wild shit. I don't think Deadpool actually reached fuckability levels until Ryan Reynolds played him. Like,
Yeah.
Before that, people were like, oh yeah, Deadpool's gross as fuck. He's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
But now people are like, nah, dude, I don't care if he looks like cancer. Sorry.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's a weird pipeline. Anyways, back to the episode. Like you
So
said,
the blue stuff, we get a shot after Shadow finds the Chaos Emerald of the blue speed explosion, and Shadow just looks up. He sees the weird cosmic shard subspace for some fucking reason, and just is like, Sonic.
what did you do?
And then he runs,
And he runs.
and he runs so far away, and then he punches Sonic.
God. Yeah. And this turns into a whole fight between Sonic and Shadow.
So it's also where Sonic explains who Shadow is.
It's also where Shadow breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah, Shadow.
Sonic's been doing that a little bit too, but
But Sonic is just like, he's like kind of Nemesis, but you know, he uses rollerblades. To which Shadow looks at the screen and goes, they're not rollerblades, they're air shoes.
yeah. And this turns into a whole fight between them.
Mhm.
Shadow knocks him around a bit. We get a cool chase scene.
Shadow is like, what the fuck did you do? The world went all wobbly.
The fight ends with some flickies watching them,
Yeah.
and Sonic just gets jacked in the face by Shadow.
A vaguely amusing thing, though, that throughout this fight is as Shadow beats up Sonic, because Sonic doesn't get a fucking plant and a blow in, and when they destroy some trees and shit, coins pop out.
Yeah.
Well, not coins,
Rings.
rings.
Yeah. But the fight ends with Shadow decking Sonic,
Yep.
and 3 flickies like fly around his head.
Yeah. I mean, so there's that, but just before it, Shadow's asking Sonic what the fuck he did.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic's just like, it's none of your fucking business, basically. And she's like, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah. But after the punch, we hear Sonic voiceover going, and I can't remember anything after that.
I mean, there's also a giant explosion that takes place on top of the mountain, and Sonic gets distracted and looks up, and he's like, my friends, and he turns back around, try to say something to Shadow, and Shadow just punches him in the face and says, don't get distracted.
Yeah, this is the part where he gets punched in the face and the flickies
Yep.
fly around his head.
And then we go back to New York City, and it's not clear here, they don't make it clear, but it is before Sonic gets captured.
By Babbles.
Yes.
And we see a giant floating machine and it's broadcasting an image of Sonic, and it's like, if you have any information about the blue hedgehog, you need to come forward now.
And we see Biggs with Froggy still on his hat. His eyes go wide, and he looks kind of scared. And then we move camera over to Nux and Rebel on a rooftop, watching Sonic and Tails getting carted away. That scene we already had in the first episode, and we don't immediately cut from there. We get their exact same lines again. And then
they get a call from base.
Yeah.
And somebody says, "We need you back at base. There's something you need to see."
Yep. They walk in. This is where we get their full titles: Rebel Rouge and Renegade Knuckles. And Renegade Knucks, we have something to show you. And they're showing a clip of Sonic yelling about how he hates concrete, smog, robots, and he wants to go home.
Yeah, it's really Sonic telling Nine about the old grassy hills from the pre-industrialization and how he hates it here now. And we flash back to Rouge being awoken by Green Hills being deforested and destroyed.
Yep, there's just some robots pushing trees across.
And then Rouge flies up in the air and looks around, and we see more of the destruction happening.
And we see Knuckles just beating the shit out of some robots.
Rouge flies down, picks him up and saves them.
Because he starts to get overwhelmed.
And the change from Green Hill to Egghead Industrialized City...
It's very quick.
Yeah, it's a matter of moments. I don't think it's legitimately a matter of moments. It probably, like, in canon takes years.
I don't know about that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes no time at all, given the fact that it is very cartoony and, like, its story in the games and stuff.
Tails grew up in this city because we got his backstory.
Which would imply to me that it took very little time to transform it all of a sudden, because I don't think Rouge or Knuckles are that much older than him, especially since they appear to be about the same age in the way they're acting.
Okay, but based on like comic book ages,
they're like
8 years older than him.
Yeah.
So, matter of years, I would say.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, like, I don't know if it took years. It could be instant, no problem.
Yeah, okay.
So, they're both just like, this sucks, and then we go back.
Well, Rouge goes, "We need to save the blue guy. He's an enemy of the council, and that means we need to save him." And Knuckles goes, "Feels like a trap."
Yeah. And then we cut back to the test, and we just see all of that stuff repeat.
I'm never going to let us skip a part where Knuckles says, "That feels like a trap," because it is his entire characterization in the future line.
So we cut, like I said, back to Sonic doing tests. Literally nothing new. And then we cut away from there to a scene we could have just done anyways. And it's Knux and Rebel on top of a roof making a plan about how to break into the council to free Sonic. They have a little iPad basically, and they're planning out the building.
They did it to sneak through the streets, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they briefly snuck through the streets.
And then while they're planning out how to break in, we get some of the robots stopping Biggs and identifying him as Citizen 1998. Another just subtle nod to his debut year.
Yep.
And
Sonic Adventure.
And they start interrogating him about his contact with the Blue Hedgehog.
Yeah. And then we cut back to the test as Sonic is overloading stuff. As that happens, we get Shadow talking. Again, it's literally the exact same scene. And then we see the big explosion, and we actually leave that room now, though. And we see that it's an EMP for
we didn't get the big explosion last episode. That's new.
We stopped right before it. So the explosion goes off, and it's basically a giant EMP over all of New York City. So Biggs doesn't get interrogated. He kind of stares at the robot down on the ground, kicks it, and then some other citizens join in, and they start kind of like just kicking these machines because they make their life bad.
And Rouge and Knuckles on top of the roof. Knuckles laughs. He's like, "Well, that's our diversion."
Yep.
And Rouge is like, "Yeah, let's go." And Knuckles goes, "Well, it's a little too easy."
Well, no, that's not what happens.
Oh.
Rebel's just like, "This is weird. This has never happened before. Is this what luck feels like?"
And Knuckles goes, "It feels like a trap."
And then Rebel's like, "No, it has something to do with that blue guy. He showed up and now things are going well for us.
It's happened all over the city. They wouldn't do this for a trap."
Yeah. And then we're back in the council chambers, and Sonic is laying on the floor groaning. And
Sonic is still running when we get back. He hit Speed Force. There was the EMP.
He shatters out of his hamster ball.
And then he's still running for a little bit before he passes out and falls to the ground.
Flat face plants into the ground.
And when he flat face plants into the ground, the power starts back up.
He groans, the power starts back up, and then the robots come back to life in the streets, and they order people to get back in formation, so they all go back to the people movers. And then we move back into the council chambers.
And Sonic mentions at this point that he is beginning to remember the Paradox Prism and all that stuff. Because apparently he didn't remember that in the last episode, and we only found out in this episode that he didn't remember that.
Yeah.
And him not remembering that has no effect on the last episode or this episode.
No. So there actually is a moment as people get back onto the people movers. One of them, the random people in the background, leaves over another and goes, "If this happened once, it can happen again. We should join the resistance."
Yep. It's a moment of hope, which Rouge said earlier that Sonic was hope.
Yeah.
She's like, the blue guy is strength and anger and hope.
Yeah. So we are back to the council, though, and the council is just questioning, particularly Dr. Dunnett, like how he stole their energy.
Yeah. And then both Rose and Nine are both like, no, he brought his own.
Yeah. And then Mr. Dr. Eggman says, with his energy plus our battery, we could do the thing. He said, we don't.
He specifically says we could crush the resistance.
Oh, yeah. He says they could crush the resistance. You're right. To which Dr. babbles something, angrily pounds his hand on his high chair, floaty chair.
And the other Eggmen are like, that seems a little extreme.
Don't you think?
And then Babbles bangs on his chair again. And they're like, well, you heard him.
Get the power extractor.
And so the energy extractor that they're getting is going to be used to cut the energy out of Sonic, killing him in the process.
Yep, it's a giant laser.
Yeah, so the Eggman can make use of it. Sonic then's like, hey, can a hedgehog have some last words? And he just starts filibustering. He's like...
Yeah, so... As he's talking, he's like trying to figure something out, and we see Nine's wink. So Sonic winks back, and he's just talking, and he winks several more times at Nine's. It's supposed to be a comedy bit. Eventually, Dr. Eggman has had enough, and then Sonic's like, okay. Dr. Eggman calls him out on stop with the winking, and Sonic's just like, what was the plan? And Nine's like, I didn't have one. I had dust in my eye. And then in come Rebel and Nux to save the day.
Well, before Mr. Doctor interrupts with the winking thing, Babbles bangs on the table and shouts something, and that's when Mr. Doctor goes, enough with the winking. Babbles is right. It's almost dinner time.
Yes. And then Nux and Rebel come in just in time to pull Sonic out of the way as the laser starts firing.
Yep.
Then they're fighting robots, and
Rogue and Nux start fighting egg forcers, which are different than egg bots.
Yes. And then Chaos Council kind of flees away into a corner.
And Rose joins the fight against Rogues and Nux.
She does that after, at her console, she initiates a lockdown. We see giant steel doors.
Yeah, and then Nine jumps over to the console and frees Sonic from his restraints by hacking the console. Sonic then...
Woozy still joins in on the fight,
but he immediately distracts Rouge and Knuckles because he knows their names.
Yeah, and they're like, what?
And that gives Rusty Rose time to beat them down.
Yeah, like enough time to throw Nux across the room, and Sonic's just like, whoa, can't you go easy on him, Amy?
And then Sonic does Sonic stuff and leads the laser around the room.
So what it is when he's like woozy and he's running at Rusty Rose, I think he like trips and like flies and smacks into the fucking extractor, and he just starts rotating around the room throughout the fight, cutting into the building.
And almost decapitating all of the Eggmen.
Yep.
And at that point, they all kind of shiver in fear. And then where the floor lifted up to release egg forcers, they go into that and it drops down and takes them somewhere else in the building.
Yeah.
So the Eggmen are gone. And now the egg forcers and Rusty Rose are fighting Knuckles, Rouge, and Sonic.
And the entire time, Nines is just trying to hack this terminal and failing. And we end this episode.
Well, while he's hacking the terminal and failing, he's got his robot Tells fighting off egg forcers behind him.
And then Nux shows up and gets ready to punch him. And Tells is just like, I'm on your side. I'm clearly not one of them, obviously. Nux looks suspicious and agitated.
And then in the other part of the fight, Rose's arm, because both of her arms are mechanical, one of them stretches out and pins Sonic to a wall. And she kind of like uses that to catapult herself forward and goes to slam Sonic in the face with her other metal fist.
And that's the end of the episode.
That's the end right there.
So, what are your thoughts on episode 2 and or the entirety of the 2 episodes we watched of Sonic Prime?
So it still feels like a movie more than a TV show.
Okay.
Although movies don't have this much shonen recap syndrome.
I mean, so what I'm hearing is it should have just been a movie and we should have not done the recaps and just put those scenes where they would fit in.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with shonen recap syndrome, it is a condition that plagued the 90s in anime and the early 2000s. In shonen anime specifically, where because it was released on a weekly schedule, a combination of the production companies assuming the audience was stupid and wanting to stretch stuff as long as possible,
padding for time, baby,
led to them usually recycling the last 3 minutes of every episode as to the first 3 minutes of the next episode. And that's if you were lucky. It would also often contain flashbacks to the previous episode or the previous 2 episodes throughout, and this became known as shonen recap syndrome. It is a plague, and we are well past it in anime mostly, and so it's a sin, a cardinal sin of animation that is in this show. That alone is probably enough to turn some fans off and drive away other potential fans, but season 1 is only 8 episodes. This just came out last year now because it's January 2nd, in like November, December. I think being only 8 episodes, you can suffer through the SRS and survive and enjoy the show. Not just survive. Obviously you'll survive, but and enjoy the show. So it doesn't make it quite unwatchable, but it does negatively affect the viewing experience.
I can understand that completely.
Otherwise, I still like it. It's still fun. I just wish we had less of that. Also, the whole memory loss subplot doesn't like do anything.
Honestly, I liked it better when I didn't think it was memory loss. I thought it was just Sonic was so fucking thick. He couldn't wrap his mind around the fact that, oh, this is just a different time. time. I'm in a parallel universe.
Which is exactly what episode 1 leads you to believe, because episode 1 never mentions memory loss.
No.
It's only in episode 2, and it's only a plot point for like half the episode.
Yeah, it was much better when Sonic was just a thick fucking dumb himbo.
Yep, that's my take. Show's good, show's watchable. It's 8 episodes. They're 7 20-minute episodes once you take off the credits, 1 40-minute episode, so that's like 180 minutes, 3 hours of TV.
Yeah, it's just a long movie. You're fine, you should watch it.
Just a long movie.
Don't watch Avatar 2, Way of Water. We don't need more dances with wolves.
Do you think without the Shonen Recap Syndrome, this could clock in at under 2.5 hours and actually just be a movie?
I don't know if we're shaving that much time off, but
the episodes are only 20 minutes each after episode 1, so.
But I could see it being just over 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like maybe 2:36 or some shit.
Yeah. So it is really just a movie. You're just gonna have to live with the recap.
Yeah, which is sad and annoying, but it's a thing that's bearable, I guess.
Would you watch more? Do you like it enough to watch more?
Honestly, don't know if I'd watch more. I don't have anything against it. It's just not really for me, which is weird, I guess, coming from the statement of the fact that out of the two of us, you seem to be willing to watch more of it.
Yeah.
Whereas I, having been a huge Sonic fan and reading a bunch of the comics, don't really care.
Yeah, it's really weird that you were the Sonic head when you were growing up.
Yeah.
And I barely engaged with Sonic media outside of Sonic X and the original Genesis games. And I'm like, yeah, this show's good. I would watch more. And you're like, not necessarily for me. It's a little odd.
I just don't care.
That said, I think we both enjoyed these 2 episodes.
Oh, yeah, no,
overall.
it was a perfectly fine show. Like, I'd be more than okay with it being on in the background. I might kind of pay attention phasing in and out of it. I just wouldn't have got on my way to watch it. Not because the show's bad, but just because I don't care about Sonic that much.
Fair. Neither do I. I have a friend who, loves Sonic. He went to both midnight premieres for both live-action Sonic movies.
Crazy, but some people like weird things.
Yeah, he, has met the voice actor for Sonic from Sonic X.
That's dope, though.
Yeah, he's a huge Sonic fan. He's where I originally got the recommendation for this show from.
Yeah. I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's going to be it for us. This was the first flight of 2023. We're looking forward to about a couple dozen more with you. If you want to contact us while we're flying around at the speed of sound, there's numerous ways to do so.
Oh, New Year, I'm still supposed to give out all the same old information, whatever, fine. You can contact us by emailing us at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
It'd be wild if we changed contact information and stuff every year. That doesn't make any sense. But like you said, you can get us at email, or you can find us at Twitter at copilotsreview. That is also the @ for Hive, at copilotsreview.
Yes, or you can find links to all of those except for the Hive and more at copilotsreview.simplecast.com, which has a link to our email, our Twitter, our severely outdated YouTube, our Discord, and our Patreon.
And if you're still looking for it, there is a hidden second email. I don't have the login information for that. I have no idea if we've ever got email there.
We have not.
There you go.
Besides a few spam emails. It's literally being used for nothing to the degree that we don't even get spam on it.
It's wonderful. We get spam in our regular email all the time.
Yeah.
And most of it's 10 ways to make your podcast better. Join this service.
I mean, at a point, we were getting buy follower shit. We were fucking Twitch chat.
Yeah.
I bought all of the followers. They listened to all the ads that we're about to put into shit.
And if you don't want to listen to ads...
And still increases revenue.
And if you don't want to listen to ads, you can follow us on Patreon. No, we're not...
We're not doing an ad program. Not because it's beneath us, but because we've had no offers to do that.
Because we're still a very tiny podcast.
Itty bitty.
Itty bitty bitty. That said, when ads do start rolling in, we will take them.
Yeah.
So
there'll be obviously some degree of...
So Dollar Shave Club or Bespoke Post, hit us up.
Or any of those treat boxes. I like weird, fun treats. Or Tipsy. Yeah.
Isn't Tipsy only an English thing?
I mean, Tipsy is Bright Cellars.
Oh, okay.
Tipsy is Bright Cellars, but for sake. Or Bright Cellars as well, but I don't think I've ever heard an ad spot for them.
I have a couple times. Anyways, the point is...
Alcohol, food, and I guess the basic, normal, everyone does this thing one.
It really, if we've used the product and we can actually recommend it, Zinni Optical, if Zinni Optical wanted to hit us up for an ad spot, I would give Zinni Optical,
all fucking day, baby. I recommend that shit just to people on my normal life.
Sometimes I sound like a shill in real life and it hurts me my soul, but some services are just worth shilling for, like Copilots Review. Happy New Year's, everybody.
Please like and zoom.